Hey guys, welcome back to the shop. Today we're switching gears to something a little more pedal powered because I've got some work to do on the bike. So I just picked up a new fork for this guy and I figured it'd be a good chance to show you how to swap a fork if you've never done that before. So first step is going to be to pull the wheel off. For this particular one I'm going to need a 6mm Allen wrench and just pull the through axle. Your bike may be different. Drop that down and put it aside. Next step, we are going to pull the brake off. I've got mine just directly attached to the fork. Sometimes you'll have an adapter. This one was just bolted directly to the fork. And I'm going to loop it around here for safekeeping. Second, I'm going to loosen the two bolts on the stem that are right here. And then we will remove the top cap bolts. And if we were super fancy, we would have something to use as a drift to hold the place. But I'm going to just put the headset spacers down. I'm going to put them in my pocket. Or, no, on the floor. When in doubt, on the floor. Then we can pull our stem off. And our fork will drop out the bottom. And if you don't know the order of all the bits of your headset, just keep it in order and don't take anything out. This particular one is little top bit bearing with the bevels facing into the cup. But there. Then the next thing we've got is this guy. This is called the crown race. What this does is basically it's the bearing race for the lower headset bearing. This particular one has a split in it. That means it just comes on and off super easy and is held in just by wedging against the bearing. Some headsets will require that to be pressed on and pressed off. So that one you might need to look into some other tools or take it to your local shop. They can usually swap that out for you. But my crown race, super easy. So all I'm going to do, take this, throw it in the bin, grab the new fork. So here's the shiny new fork. This is a RockShox Domain. It's basically the cheap version of a Zeb. Similar chassis, but just cheaper internals. Perfect for this bike. I don't ride too crazy. I've got good fitness and I enjoy riding, but I'm not at a super high level, not competing. So just for fun, the Domain's a pretty good fork. Take my crown race, slip it on. I like to keep that slot lined up to the back. You can do the front, you can do it wherever, it doesn't matter. It doesn't affect anything. But what we're going to do, and grab my spacers. We're going to feed this back up in here, make sure my bearings stayed put. Feed that up. Put the bars back on. And if your handlebars are light enough, you can totally just do what I just did, which is let it dangle by the cables. It's not the best for it, but it doesn't hurt it nearly as bad as some people might think. This one I want to be pretty flexible with the height, so I'm going to keep the steer long. I'm just going to use the same spacer stack I had before. So I'm going to put all of those on there. And now, the most important part, I'm going to take something, anything, and I'm going to make a score mark. So that right there is the mark I'm making. That is the absolute longest it would be with these spacers. I'm going to cut it just a little bit shorter. That way we've got room for the headset to compress and put preload on the bearings. So I'm going to say that. I'm also going to make a space below, make a mark below that 5mm. So anywhere between here, probably a little closer to the top, is where I'm going to cut the steerer. So after that mark is made, we can pull the fork back out and bring it over to the workbench. Okay, so now that we've made our marks, it's time to cut the steer. I've got it in the vise in some soft jaws. There's a few ways of doing this. Number one would be to use a cutting guide, which I don't have. At least I can't find one. Basically, that is similar to a miter box, but for round tubing. That's what we have in the bike shop. It's the most common way that I've cut them. Second, you can use a large pipe cutter, like tubing cutter, put it on there, do the spinny thing until it pops off. The more basic way that you guys would probably do is just cut it with a hacksaw. And one way of helping you with that is to actually take some masking tape, wrap it around where you want to cut, and basically make a nice perfect circle. If you can get the masking tape to line up and be nice and square, then you know that you've got a really good square cut. So now I would take a hacksaw and just cut that using the tape as a guide. Unfortunately, I have absolutely no idea where my hacksaw went. I know I have several, but I'm going to use probably the silliest tool I have to cut this because I think it'll work. This is like one of those tubing cutters, but kind of on steroids. This is actually for cutting exhaust tubing for a car. I've needed it for a couple jobs, but basically what it is it's like one of those plumbing tubing cutters, but with a lot more wheels. And so I am going to try it and see if it cuts this. This is aluminum, so it should cut pretty easily. Just going to line everything up at around my mark. And then I'm going to give it a squeeze and roll back and forth. Alright, future Eric here. Yeah, don't ever try using that tool. Makes a terrible mess. The fact that it has a bunch of different rollers means they kind of all cut their own path. So this came out terribly. And I didn't need it nearly as long as I had cut it initially. I just wanted to be on the safe side, so I am going to cut it a little bit shorter. Star nut is still in there. I'll show you how to seat that later. But yeah, this is a cutting guide. I ended up buying a new hacksaw because A, I still don't know where my hacksaw is. B, it was kind of crap, so I wanted to get a better one anyway. But clamped in the vise, done up, and just take a couple cuts. And there we go. So now we've just got to clean up the edge. First I'll knock all the stuff out. Then we've got this little guy. This is kind of a basic little plumber's pipe deburring tool. You can also use a file if you want, but this works really well. It's got one side for the outside, one side for the inside, and it leaves a pretty nice surface finish. So that is how you properly cut it. Again, a single-bladed normal pipe cutter will work as well, and the tape method also works. It just doesn't give you an actual guide, it's a visual guide so that you can keep yourself on track. So, can be done, a little bit harder. This is the easy way, and if you don't feel confident doing any of those, just take it to your local shop. They should be able to cut it for you, especially if you make a mark already. Last step, we're going to want to put that star nut in. And normally you'd need a star nut setter, but there is a way to do it purely by hand if you don't have one of those. Basically, you just take your bolt, thread it onto the star nut, and just tap it in. Just be very careful. So there's my new star nut. We're just going to align that like so, and give it a couple taps. That was pretty bad. If it starts going sideways, just give it some sideways taps to correct it. They are self-centering, so once you get the second layer in, it should be good. And that's about right. Don't want to go too deep, and again, when in doubt, go to a bike shop, ask to use their star nut setter or have them do it. They'll charge you like $5–10, worth every penny. Unfortunately, I am at home and I want to get this video out and get this fork on for you. So if the shop's closed, you got to do what you got to do. There we go. Nice and square. So now we put it on the bike. Time to stick this in. I'm going to feed it in through the bottom. Again, make sure my bearing is still in there. If it's not, you place it on the crown race. Feed it up through there. Got a couple of spacers. Like so. Then we'll put our handlebars on, or our stem on, with handlebars. Then I'm going to take my spacers that I had for the top and stick them on there. Finally, top cap. Thread that into the star nut that we had just set. And we're going to basically just tighten that up until we get rid of any of the play. Then tighten those bolts on the side. Actually, first thing we're going to do is align this. So I'm going to sight through and use your favorite method for aligning a fork. Mine is actually to kind of line up between here and here on both sides and make sure those are all four of those are dead in line. Then we can tighten our pinch bolts. So now we're in the final steps. We're going to take our brake and mount it. There is some debate as to how you should mount the brake and specifically where the hose goes. My personal opinion, it should always go on the inside of the fork. The reason for that is if it's on the outside, if you wipe out on that side, you could always potentially rip it open and then lose your brakes. And you really want your front brakes, despite what all the people that don't understand physics think, your front brake is your good brake. So use it, and use it often. Just don't use it too hard. So we're going to get that brake on. Nice and easy like so. I'm going to just loosely put it in place. We're going to adjust it later. So now we're just going to take an Allen wrench. In this case, it's a 2.5. Loosen my little cable clamp and clip the hose back in. Now we just stick the wheel on and adjust the brake. All right, there we go. Fork installed. All right, that's going to be it for today. Hope you learned something despite the setbacks. So that's all for now. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. So unfortunately, the thing I didn't realize, this fork is made for a direct mount 200 mil rotor, and that's a 180. So I can't get that any closer. So I guess I'm gonna have to stick another rotor on it. So I guess I won't be able to ride my bike tomorrow.